We've got a very good friend of the show in here. You might not agree with a single thing he says, but let's get to our next segment, The Bottom Line.
Here's the bottom line.
We need to get to the bottom of this.
Get to the bottom of this.
We've got to get to the bottom of this.
The Bottom Line on The Mark Cox Show.
That's the only way we're going to get to the bottom of this.
That's the bottom line.
Truth! You can't handle the truth.
Yeah, Keith Antone, the one and only in studio. He's on, you can find him every Saturday, right?
Yep,
on Praise 95.1.
And occasionally on The Answer 1380, our sister station. So, and sometimes you guys let me come over here. And,
frequent contributor to FM News Talk 97.1, both
Absolutely.
on the DJS Think Tank.
I'll be on the Think Tank tomorrow, 5 o'clock.
Great. And you've been on the Mark Cox Show before.
Yeah.
I've heard.
And the Weekend Report.
Yep,
Tony
that's
Colombo
right.
and Chris Arps.
That's right.
So I think you guys like me, and I think it's my Denise. First of all, let me say hi to Denise and to Trish.
Good to see you.
Killer bumper music as always. Like I'm over air guitar and it out, right. I mean, killer bumper music. But no, I think you guys like my rate, and it's free, and it's zero. So I just saw the big boss Jeff Allen. So he said, "Hey,
I think he's doubling your salary."
I think so.
I think so. Yeah.
You made a great impression on him.
No, he said next week it's coffee and donuts. So I'm moving up in the world here.
Well, Keith, we do have coffee, and somebody made pumpkin pops.
There are pumpkin cake pops out there.
Oh,
Yes.
I'll have to try that.
So if you got a sweet tooth like me,
grab me another one.
delicious.
I feel weird taking two, but I would eat two. So.
Oh man! So Keith, I haven't talked to you since the Kavanaugh saga wrapped up, and I will give you credit though, because you were one of the liberals that wasn't completely off the deep end. You all along thought when it was all said and done, he was going to be Justice Kavanaugh.
Absolutely. Kiki Kavanaugh, Bad Boy Brett, whatever you want to call him. I knew it. I mean, listen, they knew they had the votes, and this was all just a political show. But I'm going to tell you the fallout here. The fallout for both Democrats and Republicans is that a whole lot of Americans were kind of ticked off on the process, and you have to agree it was kind of stinky.
Yeah, but wasn't it mainly your side? I mean, you guys interrupted all the hearings. You're scratching and screaming on the Senate door. I mean, there's a great article today in the Washington Post, of all things, but it was written by a common sense guy named Mark Thiessen, who's a pretty middle-of-the-road, center-right guy. He says the Kavanaugh saga shows we've not yet plumbed the depths of Democratic ruthlessness. So have we plumbed the depths of Can you guys get more ruthless, Keith?
Well, listen, I think it's pretty much, according to a CNN poll I saw last night, the GOP, 35% approve of the process, the way the Kavanaugh case, and on the Democratic side, 36% approve. Now, get this, and they're only 1 point away. Disapprove on the GOP side, 55%, and 56% on the Democratic side. So I think a lot of people, whether or not you want to blame and point the finger at your guys, my guys, I think, Tim, a lot of people disapproved of the process.
So let me ask you this. Can we come back? Can we reestablish the a lot of people make fun of the decorum of the Senate. You know, your honorable and your ladiness and your gentlemanness and all this stuff. But in a way, that showed a controlled environment, right? Everybody knew the rules up there. Republican, Democrat, Montana, Maine, everywhere in between. Everybody kind of followed the rules. Keith, can we get back to that? And who needs to go first, or do they need to do it at the same time? I mean, how do we, with a midterm election coming up, which is very hard fought?
Yeah.
How can we get back to the decorum and the process in the Senate?
I don't know. I wish I had that answer. I wish I could just, give you an answer. I really don't know, Tim. I think, again, I'll refer to these poll numbers. I wanted to come in here because I know when you come, you always have numbers and facts. And so I didn't want to.
That's what conservatives do.
That's what conservatives do. So I'm trying to take a play out of your playbook.
Look at that.
But
I'm reforming Keith Antone.
You are. Listen. In this same poll, likely voters' choice for Congress, 54% of the likely voters, this is across the board, say they'll vote for Democrat. Only 41% said Republican. Again, I think we're all losing here, no matter what side you're on. I think that people were ticked off with the entire process. And I don't think we can ever get back to the civility that we once had because you got Donald Trump there. and as long as he's there, there's no heat. Throw out all of the rules and throw out all of the etiquette. Throw all that out the window. As long as Donald Trump is there, it's going to be go for what you know. I just believe that.
Let me push back on that, though,
Okay.
because I've seen some polls. Rasmussen has Trump at 51% approval. And I know a lot of people say, oh, Rasmussen is weighted in favor of Republicans. Okay, how about the CNN poll, which has Trump up 5 points higher this week than last week? So, Keith, I think some people feel that for a long time Republicans were getting the snot knocked out of them by the left, and maybe it's just the hard left and not all Democrats, but they like Trump because he's the first Republican that has really fought back. He's got in the ring and tussled up with them.
And you know, I've said this, and I said my wife always says it. Us Democrats, a whole lot of us got to get a backbone, right? Mm-hmm. And we're sitting up there, and I think why do we keep taking these sucker punches? We keep getting bashed in the mouth, knocked against the wall, and we're not doing anything. I mean, come on, Schumer, come on, Feinstein, come on. What are you doing?
I will agree with you on that. I do think, as much as I didn't like him, I thought Harry Reid, who was a boxer back in his younger days, I thought Harry Reid, and again, I didn't like a single thing he did policy-wise, but I thought he was a much better Senate leader than Schumer.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
He was a fighter.
And I'm not going to disagree. Listen, he was a fighter, and you knew you were in a fight when you got in there with Harry Reid. Now, these Democrats that we have up there, that's why I'm saying, listen, it's going to be, I think it's going to be some surprises here come November 6th.
So, speaking of that, do you think one of them will be here in Missouri? I mean, Josh Hawley is consistently polling 1 to 3 points above Claire McCaskill. This is a state that Trump won by 19 points. I don't think any poll, you and I were on the air leading up to election night, I know in 2016, maybe in the primary. I can't remember which one we did, but nobody had a poll anywhere with Trump up 19 in the state. Now, the biggest I saw was around 11 or 12. So will there be what? Let me ask you this first. Do you think there's an October surprise against or for either of them? Or are we just going to slugfest this out till November 6th?
I think we're going to slugfest it out. Listen, the reason why I think that Claire is going to win by a couple of points is because Josh has done nothing to attract minority and women voters. And let me tell you what, women are taking positions around the country. Here in the city of St. Louis, we have a female mayor, our comptroller, our city treasurer, our license collector, a lot of state reps and state senators, females. So I think what's going to happen here, I think that she's going to eke it out with the minority and the women vote. I think it's going to be extremely close. But I think she wins, Tim. Hear me now and think about it later, my friend. I think she wins. No, hear me now and think about it later. I think she wins by 1 to 2 points because of the backlash of this whole Me Too movement, of this whole Kavanaugh debacle. I think she wins by a couple of points. And Josh Steele, and when you were on my show a couple of weeks ago, I said it. He has done nothing like the Kit Bonds, right, and the Tim Jones of the world to try to at least attract minority voters.
You heard it right here.
Done nothing.
Tim Jones is not a racist. Jim Jones is not a racist.
No, you've never been a racist.
But I want to talk to you about your good friend Keith Ellison when we come back. So
I don't even know the guy.
Now you have time to think about that.
Keith Antone, can you hang around for one more segment?
I can.
We'd love to have you continue. We're here on the bottom line with our good liberal friend Keith Antone, but he always brings the fun as well when we give him the heat. This is the Mark